Hello, my name is Rolf, and I am here because I have a need in my heart to share God's love with people in Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. These countries are beautiful, but the people need to hear about Jesus. I have read books like The Great Controversy and Steps to Christ, and they changed my life, because they show God's love and plan for us. I see many people searching for hope, for real everlasting answers. That's when I decided to step out in faith and start sharing special books with people in my local community. These books bring people to God, thus I go out and preach the gospel, and they ask for truth, but they don't know what they want, because we have the answer, and we tell them about Jesus. But I also need your help because time is short, therefore we must work together to spread the gospel. I can tell you, it's not always easy. Sometimes people are busy, sometimes they're skeptical. But I've also seen hearts touched, eyes opened, and lives changed. I remember one person. Jesus is coming soon, and we must tell people now. This is not about me, but it is about saving souls for God. Every book you share, every conversation you have, is an investment in someone's eternity. Whether you have experience or not, whether you're young or old, there is a place for you in this work. Will you help me, and will you tell people the gospel, and give out books to people, so that we can save souls together? The harvest is ready, but the workers are few. I implore thee, do not delay, because the time is fleeting, and let us work while it is day, thus the night approacheth, and there will be no work to do, and amen. Thank you, and may God bless you as you consider this call.
Imagine waking up headlines that sound like science fiction. Synthetic plagues, resurrected beasts from thousands of years ago, mind-reading computers. Disasters that come faster and hit harder than even before. And we live now in a day and age where we just kind of scroll past these stories of what I called the birth pains. Calamities, warnings about a world where you cannot buy and sell unless you comply. Maybe you're one of those people that are listening. Maybe you've heard a few preachers talk about these things. But it seems so weird, so far-fetched, so fringe. But I would like to invite you for a moment here on Light Channel TV on this day of 23rd of August. What if it's not just weird stuff? Have you ever thought about it? What if these are the very contractions that that Jesus, in the Bible talked about the signs that the world is about to give birth to its final crisis. And so, if this is true, some Christians believe this is true. Can you believe it? I'm one of these weird Christians that believes in this stuff. Otherwise I won't be standing here. But what if this is true? Why is almost no one preparing? Why do most churches seem more interested in potlucks, social programs, being inclusive, than in sounding the alarm? Why do so many believers live as if tomorrow will be just another day? Business as usual, just like today. I just need to plan for tomorrow, maybe my next vacation. And am I the only one seeing the ground shaking beneath our feet? Maybe. I don't know about you. Could it be that the death of the moral compass left us numb, unable to recognize the labor pains of a world about to change forever? So these are some of the strange, weird questions I'm asking you here on this live stream here from Light Channel TV, and welcome everyone. I'm keeping an eye on the live chat here in case there are any questions and comments. This is a study about something which I believe has been preached for over almost now 150 years, but we are still here. So something is obviously wrong. Either the message is false, and we are false preachers, including me. Either we don't understand the message or something is wrong. And so the question is to you and me, are we on spiritual standby, waiting for someone else to act? Are we awake? Are we alert? Are we ready to stand when the final contractions are showing? And so this study, which by the grace of God, I'm going to cover today, of course, it's as usual, it's not for the faint heart. It's for those which are willing to ask. Just stop and ask the question, what if this weird stuff is for real? What if the final test is closer than we think? And if that if is for real, and this is a word, the word if. I've discovered this is a word which is actually mentioned hundreds of times in the Bible, but for some reason many people, including Christians, they ignore it, they don't see it. But that's another story. But what if this if it's for real? What will it take for us to be ready before the last contractions are going to hit? So therefore my title here, it's inspired not from my own wisdom, it's inspired from God's wisdom. Birth pains. So how does it feel to live in a world today? Now, a lot of people are trying to escape, are trying to build their own reality, are trying to live in their own bubble, are trying to just ignore what's going on. And unfortunately, I hear many times when I'm trying to start a conversation, either people just get quiet and start playing with the cat, or look the other way, or just, oh, that's, just don't tell me this conspiracy. So what if what am I going to present to you, it's for real? This is something where we have reached to a point where people, humanity, scientists are doing their best, human, to take over God. And so in secret labs, not so secret anymore, if I'm able to find this information, so are you, and so they're not secret. So we don't actually need to go into the hidden libraries of the Vatican. There are a lot of people which are putting a lot of emphasis, and I'm not saying this is bad, but it's just de-emphasizing, it's defocusing on what is happening right here and now. Secret labs, rewriting the code of life, resurrecting extinct beast, fusing animal and human, and even building or trying to build synthetic human DNA. And so these are some of the headlines which, for me, it's actually kind of like getting out of Revelation. Abominations, engineered plagues, technologies that can read our mind or freeze life for decades. And we have been warned, at least if you read the Bible, that all these are the beginning of sorrows, the birth pains. And so we have reached to a point where the world is convulsing with contractions. Even if we try to ignore it, maybe bombs are not falling on our house. Maybe we don't just see it right here and now where we are, but they are right here. Moral confusion, wars, disasters, technocratics overreach, every single one closer, sharper, and more frequent than the last one. So the birth pains are not just natural disaster. And we don't have to just look at and listen to, hey, you heard what that politician said, maybe President Donald Trump, and it's going so and so. But what's going on here, right now, where I live? And so I believe humanity is just about to cross the line where God never meant it to be crossed. And why do I say that? Two fathers, no mother, rewriting human reproduction. Researchers injected 2 sperm into an E1 nucleated egg and used epigenome engineering to bypass imprinting barriers, producing viable male offspring that could reproduce. And why does this matter? That's today. It's the news of today. We have genetic code, at least tested on animals, on mouses, that it's able to create life from 2 fathers. It's rewriting human reproduction. According to the Bible, if you're a Bible-believing Christian, you will take a stand. You will have to take a stand. Because creation order and procreation are divinely designed. And so therefore, trading the Creator's design for human depravity. And this is another final attack on family, which was supposed to be and was designed and created for a purpose from the very beginning, to be between a man and a woman, creating a family, a father and a mother. I found this quote: as the wax takes the impression of the seal, so the soul is to take the impression of the Spirit of God and retain the image of Christ. And so this seal we talked about, we studied, relates to restoring God's image, not refactoring creation's order. And I hope you can see the connection here, because there is a clear link. When I saw these recently and I was inspired to do these studies, I said, well, this is definitely something we should be covering here from Light Channel TV, because it's so interconnected with what we are just studying here. And so why does it matter? You know, it's bypassing the intended design. And so there is a lot of biological consequences that we don't know about by going this way, and I'm not going to go into there, the context. I just want to present this because I have some more here. Something unimaginable. Something which has come into not just recent years, it has been around for actually quite a few years, a terminology which is called de-extinction. De-extinction. I don't know if you heard about it. But it goes this, that genome rewriting of close relatives plus surrogates to recreate extinct phenotypes. De-extinction ambitions publicized. And you can see here at the bottom of the screen here, there is a company called Colossal Bioscience, I think, reawakens the dire wolf. That's a wolf they found, and so on. You can go on their website if you want to do it. And there are quite a few other animals that they have recreated by rewriting the genome. They have found some DNA, and of course, right now, as far as I remember, by looking at their website, they're working on the mammoths. You've probably seen images and pictures. And of course, the end goal is actually to go in and rewrite the human genome. And there is a problem. If you look at it from a Bible-believing perspective, okay, we have to take a stand again. The Bible is very clear that humans were set here, were created to be stewards. Stewards, not interfering with the design. And that's another study for itself. Well, the Bible is also very clear that the earth is the Lord's and humanity is steward and not the owner. We are not owners. Consider the work of God, said the wise man. For who can make that straight which he had made crooked? Well, one can argue today, we have the technology today. There is a lot of technology today. I'm working within biotechnologies and bioscience, so I know a little bit about these technologies that are there to give the opportunity and the possibility to rewrite. And so, was the Bible wrong? Is the Bible wrong? Men are supposed to become channels through which God can communicate His will, not rulers over His heritage. And so I decided to take these 9 abominations which I've collected and put it into these studies because I want to put some of the major issues which I find to be the major contractions going on right now in human history. And yeah, we can decide to be apathetic like mostly are, and we can decide to shrug it off, nothing to do with me. That's escaping from reality. And we can decide to do something about it. And the first step will be to take a stand. And what does it have to do with the study? I believe it's very relevant. As always, I'm not doing doctrinal studies because this is what I believe, and I'm not here to just argue that I'm right and maybe you're wrong. I'm actually here to present reality. And this is reality, and I'm comparing this reality. Does it fit with the Christianity that I practice and I understand? Is my Christianity relevant? Does it give me any answers to the evil which is around the world today? What am I going to do? What is the answer? Do I have answers to what's going on here? Not just in my own industry, but also when I'm talking to people. Do we have answers, friends, as Christians? And I believe we do. I believe God gave us the right answer for the right time. This is the answers we are supposed to have for a world dying. Well, we can shrug it off, but if you don't understand, you can ask people that do have some expertise. And they will give you the answers. What are the consequences of rewriting human genome? Rewriting the genome in so far as to not have a mother within a context of procreation and so forth. And so I don't believe that the name of that company is by mistake or just happen chance. It's actually on purpose. Colossal. Because yes, the consequences are colossal. The third one here I found, it's synthetic human genome project. It has been going on at least for, I believe it's more than 10 years, from code to creature. That's their goal, synthetic human DNA. Proposed initiative to synthesize entire human genome, raising personhood, consent, and moral status question, which is taking the human genome and actually building a synthetic one, exactly redesigning as we please, as we wish, by human depravity engineering. That's where we are today. And by the way, I have the links here, and there is a lot of scientific studies. I'm just very, very ultra summarizing this stuff for you here because it's so overwhelming, it's so comprehensive. I'm just putting in here on the screen for the records, for anyone willing to take a stand. This is the world we live in today, and I strongly believe that we Christians have and should have an answer. And not just the answer, but also what the solution is going to be. And that's the point of these studies. Number 3, again, why is this wrong? Not according to me, but according to the Bible. The Bible said that God forms and knows person. Life is a sacred gift. Identity defined, I wrote here, because when God created Adam and Eve and created every single human being by setting up a system of reproduction and partially recreation, and there is the human genome, which goes on from generation to generation. And so the consequences are by creating synthetic genome are colossal, because you can write exactly no identity. And of course, this has tremendous military potential as always, and I'm not even going there. I'm just doing a comparison here to make a statement and to take a stand. Woe unto him that striveth with his maker. And this is a warning, friends. This is a warning for every single one which is striving with the maker. And so, to my amazement and surprise, God is allowing human to play with him, with his creation. But there is a line which I believe it's very close, as I said in the beginning here. And I believe humanity is just about to cross the line. And so, again and again, I can't help it. This is a quote which comes over and over in my mind, because the greatest want in this world is you and me, who will not be bought and sold, who are true to duty as the needle to the pole. And so, how would you feel if you were literally frozen for 3 decades before you were born? Recently, actually it happened this year, it is from July, a couple of months ago. 1 month ago, a couple in Ohio set a brand new record by giving birth to a child that was born from an embryo that had been frozen for over 30 years. And actually the couple, I believe they were in their 30s, somewhere 30, 34. So actually the child is almost as old as the parents. And why it matters? Well, one of the questions I would raise, potentially removing human dignity, consent, identity, and commodification concerns. So there is a huge, colossal, how should I call it, side effect. Because friends, our human dignity and our human identity, as we heard the message in this morning, comes from the Maker, comes from the Creator. And so we're just about to cross the line and to actually wipe off human dignity. There is nothing left again. And so there is this sanctity of life, because the Bible tells us that personhood is acknowledged by God in the womb. Do you agree with me on this, or am I just totally off track? I mean, maybe you're one of them working in one of these science fields. And I know quite a few people working which are still within the boundaries of moral and ethics. And I'm not here to judge or to blame anyone. But these are actually technologies which are being approved one by one without even discussing, without even making studies about long-term clinical trials, and even just stopping and having a conversation, just a human conversation about the ethical consequences. Life, according to the Bible, it's not a commodity, it's a gift. All heaven is interested in the work going on in the human soul. The human soul, friends. Number 5, brain-computer interfaces, where, well, people will say, that's weird stuff, I'm not going to have anything of that, and so forth. Well, guess again, because this is what I'm presenting here. It might sound weird to you, maybe, okay, stuff going on in the science, nothing to do with me, I just mind my own business and so forth. Well, friends, if you followed here on Light Channel TV, I know we're kind of a little bit special. I have this tendency to relate to what's going on right now in the world and not just, project doctrines into some unknown future. These are answers. These are the contractions. These are the pains. This is going into legislation. And we talk about this digital twin, and we talked about the coming digital ID. And if you follow just a little bit and are not distracted or derailed by the propaganda coming from governments, you will actually see that there is a few months coming digital ID and CBDC coming into the European Union. And this is already on the table to be into this pre-crime conversation. So anyway, I'm not going there. I'm just want to mention that this is not something weird, kind of a conspiracy. You can just go online here. You have the link on the screen. This team of researchers from Stanford University, they developed a brain-computer interface that can actually read your mind with an accuracy of 74%. So the first question that comes into my mind, well, here you have it. So what about the Holy Spirit? What about praying? God, we were supposed to have, well, here you have it. I've been looking into this, and obviously they are correct. Over 70%, the technology is able to read your mind. This is where we are. Well, according to my understanding, only God is supposed to have access to your mind and my mind. Do you agree on that? Is this an abomination? Is this a contraction? If we have this technology in the hands of what I call it the beast system, what do you think this is going to be used for? Oh yeah, the headlines is gonna sell this technology to you just before you sign, that this is for your benefit, it's for the common good, it's because they want to solve Alzheimer's and so on and so on and so on, and suddenly discovered that this has been actually weaved into some kind of a legislation where I don't want to go there, but this is what I've seen. It's my own experience. And so when the Bible is telling me that only God rightly discerns thoughts, I was like, wow. So God, not just in his mercy and love and justice, but also in his foreknowledge, he knew that humanity at some point after these 6,000 years, we are going to cross the line. And we're going to misuse the wisdom and the intelligence and the opportunities that we've been given by God to actually destroy humanity. So we don't need a meteorite. And to our friends at Pentagon or whoever, it's right now it's fuzzing again about this huge meteorite which is going to hit the Earth. I believe it's sometime in November. I don't need that fear mongering, scaring propaganda, because we are doing pretty much a very good job by ourselves. Would you agree with me on that? Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. That's a biblical conclusion. And it's not just a conclusion, it's a definition. If you want liberty in the context of God's universe, we need to have God's Holy Spirit. That's the bottom line. It's so simple. Freedom without God's Spirit, it's non-existent. Will you agree with me on that? Yeah. At least someone here is in agreement with me.
Agree.
What? Yeah. Every moment of our probationary time is precious, for it is our time for character building. We should give most diligent heed to the culture of our spiritual nature. We should watch our hearts, guarding our thoughts, lest impurity tarnish the soul. And so I was thinking when I was searching, I'm not fitting quotes here just because I want to present this topic to fit into my thinking. I'm finding by inspiration who wants to have access to your thoughts, your mind. There are two powers in this world. And so we need to decide which way we're going to go. Because as this inspired writer is saying, that we should seek to keep every faculty of the mind in the very best condition, that we serve God to the extent of our ability. Nothing should be permitted to interrupt our communion with God. Will this technology be able to interrupt our communion with God? Definitely. But they don't need the technology, because we have the social media and the television, as some people are calling. So a lot of work has been done anyway to go there. Number 7, I'm just going quickly over this because time is going. Butter from carbon. Of course, a company backed by Bill Gates would like us to start eating butter that is made out of carbon. Well, of course it matters because it centralizes and industrializes basic food. And we don't even have, again, long-term health and dependency, unknown side effects again and again. A lot of stuff, a lot of food is being put out there today, like we talked about this poison coming into Europe. And here in Denmark, it's going to start from next month, this Bovaer, which is going to go through the food chain. Anyway, what does the Bible say? And yeah, I won't eat bugs. I don't know about you. God provides the food from creation abundance. Concentration of control create bondage. Could it be that that's the reason behind? And we have a lot of stuff going on right now. The simple diet is the most conducive to health. And we've been talking and presenting this over and over and over and over here at Light Channel TV, not just through Dr. Sandoval, but through other experts. We have choices, we have options. And so I believe, as Dr. Sandoval said this morning, that God, the health message and everything related to health without the gospel, it's nothing. And I'm one of them. And so we're getting there. Chimeric H5N1 viruses with hemorrhagic effects here. A newly published peer-reviewed study states that researchers in Brazil has engineered entirely new influenza viruses in the lab. And this is something which is called the gain of function research. I'm not going there. Has been a lot of talk going on for the last at least 5 years. Came out that and so forth, NIH, United States, and some other countries have been funding, and we heard about Dr. Anthony Fauci, and so forth, supporting this technology. What's the point? Humanity is just about to cross the line. And I have a personal understanding about this gain of function. If you want to understand this, there is this website which I would recommend, Gain of Fiction, virology.com. You can go in there and get a lot of technical and scientific information if you want to go there. But the Bible is telling us there is a way that seems right. There is a way that seems right to humans. And probably you heard about this writer because she wrote about 150 years ago that Satan works through the elements also to garner his harvest of unprepared souls. He has studied the secret of the labs of nature, and he uses all his power to control the elements as far as God allows. It is God that shields his creatures and hedges them from the power of the destroyer. So no matter what the enemy is going to put forth in the world today, and the world is going to cross the line, we know that according to biblical prophecy. So this is my context, friend, here. This is what I see going on around the world here. So if you remember anything, just don't worry about this. I'm just putting forth here, we are not presenting some weird doctrine somewhere in a diffuse future. This is happening right here and right now. Researchers at Johns Hopkins are creating human mini brains, and of course, in order to study neurological disease. So they say, again, human dignity, identity, and moral status at the edge of cognition. And we have to take into the consideration that all these studies, these researchers, they might be, for some people within the industry, leading to some kind of relief or maybe finding some cures for some diseases. And I'm not claiming that everything is evil, but these are going and are already many of them in the hands of evil people, evil governments. And it comes also from a Darwinian ideology where there is no God, of course. So we can do whatever we want. There is no human dignity, there is no moral, and so forth. So let me put this into the biblical context, because human life bears God's image. And therefore, human life demands reverence. Do you agree with me on that? Human dignity is bestowed by God. Higher than the highest human thought can reach is God's ideal for his children. And so I'm not here to see everything negative and put everything in a bad context and twist and coerce just to make it fit in some kind of a weird doctrine message. I'm looking at history. I'm looking at the present. And I'm looking at what the Bible is telling me. Are these contractions of the birth pains? And so I believe they are. And so the last one here I'm going to cover is the monkeypox protein, which some other labs, the OPG147, interacts to dampen early immune signaling, enhancing viral stealth. This is a protein which is important, and they're playing here with this protein. It's important for the immune system. And as a Bible believer, I believe that God has created our body with the God-given defense system, which is the immune system. And the Bible is telling me that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Fearfully. Bodies are temples to be safeguarded, not subverted. Which means don't touch, don't alter. And I'm not saying here that we are not here supposed to relieve sickness and to do whatever we can by the wisdom of God within God's context to help humanity and to help sickness. But playing God, interfering and rewriting human genome, synthetic genome, and so forth, attacking family, attacking the immune system, and so forth. Health is a sacred trust. Cooperate with God's law of life. That's a very simple statement, friends. Well, we've reached to the actual study. I'm going to cover this not in depth. Don't worry, it's not going to take long. I will probably stop at some point soon here. A couple of weeks ago, we started this series, close of probation, timeline, and this division of before, during, and after. That's the timeline, and I made an arrow here where we are today here. I'm going to put some focus on these two events, or what should we call them, the latter rain and the loud cry. And don't worry, I'm not going into too much technical doctrinal details here. That's something for deeper study, and you're welcome if you're interested and willing to understand this to the very details. This is where I believe we are in the timeline, and we're going to focus a little bit on this. What we just covered so far are not just some weird news or some weird stuff going on. To me, it's also a call to action. It's telling me where we are. It's telling me, as I said many times now, humanity is just about to cross the line. What line, you might ask? You learn. Before the final test, before what some people are calling a national Sunday law, international, before this no buy, no sell decree, God's people are going to take, and not just God's people, the whole humanity the living humanity are called to take their decisive final statement. And so, if you want, there is a booklet. I can send it to you. It's a free booklet. I didn't write it. Doesn't matter who wrote it. It's biblically based and it's inspired, which is actually covering this scenario more into practical steps and practical details. We also have once in a while some Zoom classes where we can ask questions and talk about this here. And so today I just want to make these emphasize these three statements: ongoing evangelism, end time birth pains, disaster increasing, and preparing for the no buy and no sell. And today I'm just going to not go into the practical steps, what you have to do or we have to do as a community and what this is going to happen. I've just presented here the world today, and I didn't even put yet some other major actions which is happening in the political realm, financial and economic and so on. And what does it have to do with our study today? Well, the ongoing evangelism, what does it have to do? Why is this important? Well, the world has become a dark place. And a lot of people, they still want to hang on to this dark place. I don't know about you. I hope you want to follow to the light. We are called here to shine, And so now is the time to share the hope. Now is the time to be disciples and to share with others this truth. And now is the time to live out the gospel with urgency and clarity. This is the biblical call, my friends. It's not mine. Because there is a birth coming soon. Each new abomination, each new disaster is a wake-up call. At least for me and some few people I know. And so we need to prepare hearts, ours, and others for what's coming next. The system which is being built today, and we covered a little bit about this here, it's not that important to talk about digital ID and the economic controls which is coming up. these are just signs. These are technologies coming out from the beast system. And if we understand the difference between the beast system and God's system, and if we understand the prophecy, if we really care about what's going on, we are getting ready for the birth. We cannot stop the beast system. There is going to be a culmination, and we need to explain people that there is light at the end of the tunnel. All these are just laying the groundwork for the final crisis. And so today is time to learn to trust God for our daily bread. Today it's time to start living simply and to show compassion to everyone around us, because we need to stand up no matter what. When the requirement from the world is going to come, comply or die. Remember that. It's very simple. We are there. The line is being drawn. Humanity is building its own self-destruction. So no, I'm not afraid of aliens or meteorites or whatever fear-mongering virus which is being put in the mainstream propaganda media. I'm looking and understanding, and I'm seeing clearer and clearer what's happening around me, what's happening in the world. I'm seeing the birth pains. Do you? Do you see these abominations as I do? And I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm asking a question here. Can you compare the birth pains with the abomination which is happening right now in the world, my friends? So the question we should also ask is not, okay, let's see, maybe it won't get so bad. Maybe I'll make it. How will you make it? So it's not how bad it will get, how ready will I be? I think that's the question we should ask. How ready will we be? We talked about quantum entanglement last time. So are we going to be so entangled with Christ now that when the final contraction comes, our reaction is faith, not fear, because we are prepared spiritually, mentally, and physically? Will we be found sharing, serving? That's all about when we talk about this weird stuff. You know, people are putting this into a context of kind of a blaming it to some kind of a weird denomination, like these guys, you know, the Seventh-day Adventists. They always, some of them, not everyone, preach about this stuff, you know, coming. And I remember some years ago I had a huge conversation. There was a project. I'm not going to name names here. It's about choices, and that was the definition of this understanding. It was a weird doctrine. It might sound weird, friends, for a lot of people, but this weird doctrine helped me and some other few people to have a clear vision and answers of what's going on here. So the next phase of this study is going to walk us through these steps here. And so why these abominations matter? Why do they matter? Why do we reach to the context where the line is going to be drawn and God is going to say stop? And while God is going to say stop, so when I'm reading Daniel 12, I don't need to put it in some very academic doctrinal context, which is also important and interesting. I can just very simple, Michael stands up. What does it mean, friends? And so I don't need to go to a lot of religion classes to understand that these abominations are going to accelerate moral numbness, normalize transgression of creation order. So we just had Pride Month here in Denmark, and almost everyone from the Danish government were proud of being into this Pride Month celebration. And there were a lot of statements going on social media and so forth, and I don't even want to go there. But to me, when I'm reading Daniel 12, when I'm reading Michael Stands Up, when I'm reading about these birth pains, I can see them. Moral numbness. This is where we are. Transgression is going not just to be normalized, it's going to be legalized, and it's going to be enforced, because there is legislation, if you live in Denmark, which is going to punish you if you do not agree with the transgression. When we talked about the pride, all this topic, there is wording which has been introduced into the Danish language to be used, and if you refuse to do it, you might be punished. There is legislation coming in here. Normalizing transgression. So this is abomination right here and now. Not 50, 100 years from now. It's right here where I live, where we live. And it's going to increase the systemic risk and instability. And so we have the bioengineering, we have the surveillance state, we have the supply centralization, setting the conditions for the coercive control. And so people that are only willing to follow the comforting mainstream media, they will never realize that the Bible has actually been speaking in very clear terminologies about this stuff happening right here and now. So while we might be sleeping that this is going to happen in 100 years from now, the birth is going to take us by surprise. And of course, it's also training population to accept the technocratic solutions. Eroding conscience. Preconditioning society for the worship and allegiance crisis of Revelation 13. This is all about when I read and listen to the climate change propaganda. That's not a topic. Train population to accept the technocratic solution, the Hegelian mindset, Hegelian strategy. And so this is a booklet I would recommend. If you want it, I can send it to you as a PDF file. How the prophecies describe our end time wilderness experience and how should we prepare for it. And so these three phases of this topic of this time we're living in right now: ongoing evangelism and discipleship. Why? Because we still have the freedom and we still have some resources to do it. And thank you to all of you which are actually supporting Light Channel TV here to do just about this. This is the time. There is going to be, and I believe, and next studies, we're going to go deeper into this. There is a National Sunday Law Alliance going on right now in the United States, and legislations are being prepared. And so there is going to be what is called a loud cry, the last one. Because the birth pains are increasing. The abominations are getting wider and larger and bigger. And so therefore humanity is going to bring upon us our own death decree. And that's why it's so important today here. When that's going to happen, that phase in human history, there is going to be no more evangelism. It's going to be a lot of plagues going on, and it's going to be a situation where we have to flee and live in the most desolate places, which only God is going to sustain. So everything we're talking about today, all this weird stuff, people say maybe it's probably exaggerated. Oh, I didn't hear that on the news. I hear people say that to me. And I'm asking, what news are you listening to anyway? In light of the prophecies and the practical counsel that we have received, to me and hopefully for you, these are not sideshows. These are not entertainment videos. We do not do entertainment here at Light Channel TV. We do not do doctrinal battles. That's not what we're here for. These are contractions. This is boundary violations. God has set boundaries. When we talk about moral guidelines, when we talked about the moral compass, it's dead. Look at the decisions which are being made today. And so this booklet, if you wanted them, it's actually doing a great job. Outlines a clear, practical terminology. And so we can understand these 9 abominations because they map directly to these 3 priorities. At this phase in human history, every Bible-believing Christian, doesn't matter denomination, should prioritize evangelism, discipleship, friends. Okay? That's end-time birth pains. Tell them that these were supposed to happen and why and what's going to be on the other side of the tunnel. We need to tell people. I'm trying to the best of my ability all the time. I'm using even nights to warn people and to tell people, don't worry, and so forth. The solutions, the options, the hopes. We can continue like this. And therefore, we need to prepare, not just ourselves, we need to tell people, your neighbor, friend, your kids, your children. These are also teaching moments. Each and one surfaces big questions about God's image, creation order, human dignity, conscience, and stewardship. Everything related to no, buy, and sell, everything related to the mark of the beast is about obedience and worship. And so let's focus, let's put the focus in the right place, friends. Not 50, 100 years on some abstract doctrine, but on what's happening right here and now. Why the Bible is telling us and warning us and giving us not just the timeline, but it's giving us the guide and to-do list to give to other people. And so all these abominations are bridges from today's headlines to scriptures and the 3 angels' messages. And so what do we need to do? Take a stand. That's what apologetics means. Take a stand, my friends, and be a true disciple. Show how transgressing creation's boundaries produces not just moral confusion and social harm, it's going to destroy God's image, God's design for life. It's going to kill freedom, and it's going to totally destroy health. And I'm not just going to just even mention what happened for the last 5 years and what's going on around the world with millions of cases of turbo cancer. Are we going to cross the line soon? So friends, people are overwhelmed and apathetic. And so we need to wake up ourselves and to help people. So I'm going to jump a little bit here. I want to end here with this lens, the biblical lens again here. Apathy. I'm seeing a lot of apathy around Christianity. From a psychological perspective, apathy comes from overload and learned helplessness. Learned. When threats feel abstract or huge, people default to avoidance. That's the natural man. We avoid. Consequences paralyzes. Moral disengagement. Susceptibility to strong man solution. Oh, Donald Trump is going to save us. That politician. Why don't you vote for that party? And by the way, they're going to give you about $15 extra per month for the next 2 years if you live in Denmark for electricity bill. Just vote for them. That's the latest bread and circus for the masses. Sorry about that, but I couldn't help when I saw this. What a pity. What a pity. And so that's the definition. Let's do a diagnosis here. Am I there? Am I avoiding what's going on and just keep quiet and go as business as usual? Am I paralyzed? Am I morally disengaged? I have no reaction? Am I going to vote for the next, or maybe he or she, that politician, that policy, that's going, maybe if we support it, well, the Bible call it Laodicean lukewarmness. And there is a strong evidence for that. Because love grows cold. Apathy. And therefore missing the day of visitation. Let's remember, our soul, our character is going to be sealed, fixed, freezed for eternity at the close of probation. And so if I'm diagnosed with apathy today, it's going to train me to collapse when pressure arrives. Obedience today trains endurance for tomorrow's no buy, no sell, according to Revelation. I'm going to bring here the last thing here, 2 examples. Probably some of you heard about this situation in 2010. A homeless New Yorker, Hugo Alfredo Tail, stepped in to protect a woman from an attacker. And so picture this city, sidewalk. A stranger is attacked, is assaulted. And so one man, Hugo Alfred, steps forward to help, and in doing so, he's attacked and gravely wounded. Instead of urgent help, people are passing by Hugo Alfredo. And this is a video camera, this is a surveillance camera, which CBS News got back then in 2010. And here you see people just walking by Alfredo, lying and bleeding on the sidewalk from his injuries. And so he died, and his story shocked. Question: humanity, when faced with obvious need, like in this case, and it would have been a simple act to just stop and see, can I help? Call 911, whatever. There is a lot of things we can do. A lot of people we've learned, we have some training. Do we act? Or do we avert and look the other way? And so, let's scroll to August 2025. And let's bring us back on planet Earth. This is where we are, you and me, here and now. This is what's happening right now. And this is a message for everybody who's alive. And I couldn't help it because I'm doing everything I can with these few people to bring about some change and relief. And I'm reading here from Carsten Jensen. He wrote this a day ago. Yesterday we were about 100 writers who read about the names of the children killed in Gaza. And they were in Copenhagen City Hall Square. And I was one of the writers who was asked to add a few words, and here is my speech. Talking about dead children, to talk about tens of thousands of murdered children. How do I do that? What else can I say from this stage that to repeat the condemnation that has been repeated in recent months by so many without impressing the few who have the power to stop the mass murder? What can I say other than the killing of all those children is not accidental? They were not in the wrong place at the wrong time when the bombs hit. They were killed in the right place at the right time because the purpose of the Israeli attack on Gaza is to exterminate and expel an entire population group. And so the children are an obvious place to start. What can I say other than it is not only children who are murdered, it is our common future that is being killed on the narrow strip of land on the Mediterranean. Because the genocide of the Palestinian means that the last hope of any international binding order guaranteeing every people on earth their right to survival has now been extinguished. What can I do other than ask each of you how you would feel if it was your child? We who have lost a child know how not as a wound that will ever heal, but as an amputation. A life in a remaining body that from now on contains only half or a quarter of a heart. And if the four walls of your home have been pulverized, and the streets where you walk on a daily basis have been transformed into unrecognizable landscapes of ruins, and the skies where you usually dream away now contains nothing but dust of death, then all the points of reference of life are gone, and the gaping emptiness has opened up where there was once life and hope. All the foreign doctors who have been inside Gaza report on children with empty eyes. When they open their mouths, it's only to make one final desperate prayer: why am I not allowed to die? Everyone I love is in heaven. I don't want to be here anymore. So say the little boy who has lost his entire family to American doctor Mimi Sayed. 65 U.S. doctors who have worked in Gaza, all of them claim that Israeli snipers deliberately target children, and they document this with x-rays of children's heads showing bullets embedded in the skull mass. A recently leaked database from the Israeli army reveals that 84% of all victims are civilians, and they are not randomly selected. 1,500 doctors and nurses have been killed in Gaza. Many others from the healthcare system have been abducted, detained illegally, or tortured. Well, the 65 names of the children that Karsten named here and mentioned all died before they were 1 year old. They hadn't even learned how to say mom and dad before it was over. And so they're not just names, they're all little creatures who greeted the world with shining, expecting eyes. And so when the light of children's eyes is abruptly extinguished, it is also our light that dies. Friends, when I look at these abominations which are going around the world, I hope you have the same reaction as I do. Because we have so much hope and we have so much light and we have been entrusted with the solutions to the evil. And I'm not just going on talking and thinking about the evil going on, not just in Israel, but all the other places around the world where there is war, all this abomination and killings. In this context, I preach and present to you this message. This is not a message which is in a distant, irrelevant, disconnected, weird doctrine future. And so this is a message of hope. This is a message which is supposed to bring joy and resurrection to life. This is the loud cry which I believe we are supposed to give to a dying world. And so next time, it's God's will, we're going to continue this study. I'm going to stop here. This is an ongoing study and conversation with you. I hope you had some inspiration. And I hope I'm leaving you not with the sense of helplessness, but with hope and empathy. And not just a strive for survival of the fittest, but survival for eternity, a life which was supposed to be according to the Maker's design. And so let's bring this hope to a dying world. This is my prayer. In Jesus' name, thank you.